The story begins in the snowy expanse of Antarctica, where a dog named Max is eating the flesh of a whale. Suddenly, a seal attacks him. Max immediately runs away and goes straight to his leader, Maya. In addition to Maya, there are many other sled dogs in his group, and they have all been roaming here hungry and thirsty for a few months. Max points out the whale to Maya and then goes back to it. To distract the seal, he steals a piece of flesh and runs away. Seeing this, the seal enters the water and starts following Max. Maya sees the opportunity and starts eating with her companions. Meanwhile, Max leads the seal far away, and eventually the seal realizes it has been fooled. The seal quickly returns and bites Maya's leg with its sharp teeth. When Max sees this, he immediately runs to protect his companions and attacks the seal. Finally, they escape from the seal together. But Maya is badly injured in the process. These dogs have been wandering here for about 180 days. They came with a research team, but that team suddenly left them here to die alone. These innocent dogs do not know if someone will come to save them or if they will die of hunger and cold. 6 months ago, the owner of these dogs, Jerry, who was a guide, brought them to Antarctica because this team of dogs had never let any researcher die. One day, an airplane arrived at the National Science Foundation research base, from which a scientist named David emerged. David had come to Antarctica from around the world, and his mission was to find a meteorite from another planet. That night, the entire team made a plan to go to a place where David could find this meteorite. Jerry told David that going there in winter would not be safe, but David insisted, as he did not want to return empty-handed. Finally, Jerry had to listen to him, and according to the plan, his team of dogs would take David there. The next morning, Jerry and David were ready with the team of dogs. Jerry taught David how to get along with the dogs. They all set out on the snowy terrain, with the dogs pulling Jerry and David with all their might. After a while, Jerry stopped them and saw that there was a slope ahead. He told David to take a break and went ahead to show the way. But suddenly, the snow broke, and David started sinking. Fortunately, Jerry and the dogs pulled him out just in time and saved his life. They continued moving ahead and finally reached their destination. They were very happy, but then Jerry got a call from the base warning that a snowstorm was approaching, so they had to return to the base immediately. Hearing this, Jerry started packing to leave, but David still did not agree and said that he was just a few steps away from reaching the meteorite. Everyone knew what David had come for, and if he returned empty-handed, he would be very humiliated. Now, poor Jerry's job was also in danger, so he had to listen to David even though he didn't want to. He tied the dogs there for safety and started showing the way to David himself. Fortunately, David soon found the meteorite he had come so far to find. But then a strong snowy wind began to blow, and David called the base to ask about the weather. Suddenly, his leg slipped and he fell straight down the slope, breaking his leg. As soon as Jerry tried to help him, the snow started breaking, and in a moment, David began sinking into the snowy water. Jerry immediately asked David to catch hold of the snow, and then gave the rope to Maya to go to David. The snow there could have broken at any time, which even Maya was afraid of. Still, Maya moved ahead carefully to save David's life and put the rope around David's neck. Finally, all the dogs pulled David out and saved his life. Everyone at the base was very worried about Jerry and David. However, the weather was so bad that they couldn't do anything. After a continuous 6-hour journey, Jerry and his team returned to the base. Everyone was very happy to see them safe. But David was badly injured, and due to the snowstorm outside, Jerry's fingers were also freezing. The group decided to take David and Jerry to the hospital by plane, but there was no place for the dogs on the plane, so they had to leave the dogs there. They decided to come back and take the dogs later. Jerry was not willing to leave his dogs alone at any cost, but his companions forcibly took him to the plane. Before leaving, Jerry tied the dogs with chains and promised to come back for them. The dogs stood in the snowy air and watched Jerry leave, thinking he would return as soon as possible. A few days later, when Jerry opened his eyes, he was in the hospital. He had been in a coma for several days due to his injuries. As soon as he opened his eyes, he first asked if anyone had brought his dogs back. But he found out that no one was allowed to enter Antarctica due to the extremely dangerous weather. Jerry then met with his senior in anger and asked him to send a plane to the base, but his senior clearly refused, saying that the lives of those dogs were not greater than the humans who would be sent by plane to save them. On the other hand, the team of dogs had been trapped there for 4 days. They were all starving and had now lost hope of Jerry's return. To save his life, Max started pulling at his chain, and soon he was free. Seeing him, the rest of the dogs did the same, and soon everyone was free. But even after being free, the dogs kept roaming the area because they had hope that their master would return. Many days passed like this, and all the dogs started dying of hunger and thirst. Suddenly, one day, Max saw a bird and started running after it without thinking. Soon, all the other dogs followed him. Then, Maya said goodbye to the oldest dog, Jack, as the leader, because he had no strength left to move forward. After this, Maya taught the whole team to hunt birds. On the other hand, Jerry was still trying to go to Antarctica to bring the dogs back. He went to Washington to raise money, but all the doors were closed for him. He was told that humans would be allowed to go to Antarctica only after winter. Hearing this, Jerry's heart sank because he knew his dogs would not survive such dangerous weather alone. He went to meet David, whose leg was still not healed. Jerry showed him a picture of the dogs so that David could talk to his friends in the government and get his work done. But David also said that no one would waste so much money to save those dogs. Now Jerry had no choice, so he isolated himself from everyone, locked himself in his house, and kept remembering his beloved dogs. Time passed, and the dogs had been wandering alone in Antarctica for 50 days. The very dangerous weather and snowy winds had broken their spirit. Suddenly, when aurora lights were visible in the sky, they started running like crazy, thinking it was food, but they found nothing. Shortly after, another dog died of hunger, and the others said goodbye to their friend for the last time. They continued their search for food and started walking south. Finally, on the 133rd day, they reached an empty base where they found some food left for humans. After so many days, they ate a lot of food. They thought there might be humans around who might save them and take them back, but their hope was in vain. They didn't know that their owner, Jerry, was also losing hope day by day. Now Jerry was training small children to sail, but he still blamed himself for not being able to save his beloved dogs. One day, his ex-girlfriend Katie came to meet him. Katie had been part of the base team with him in Antarctica. But now, Jerry didn't want to talk to anyone. He was fed up with everyone because they all advised him to forget the dogs and move on. However, Jerry couldn't rid himself of the burden of leaving his friends behind. He went to meet the man from whom he had bought the dogs and apologized for not being able to protect them. The man told Jerry that he shouldn't give up so soon. Just as his dogs had always protected him, he should also try his best to save them. These words struck a chord with Jerry, and as soon as he returned home, he packed all his stuff and started preparing to go to Antarctica. Jerry went to New Zealand and rented a ship, planning to head to Antarctica. However, everyone there made fun of him, and the owner of the ship said he had gone crazy. Once again, all the roads seemed closed to Jerry, and he was very upset. Then he saw Katie in a bar. Shortly after, he met David and the rest of his team, who had come to support him in his mission. David had seen a painting made by his son, depicting the dogs saving David's life with their bravery. This melted his heart, and he arranged the money needed for the mission. Finally, they left for Antarctica without wasting any time. But soon, they faced another difficulty. The snow was very thick, making it hard for the ship to move. They realized their last base was several kilometers away. They ordered trucks from the Italian base and left for the base. Meanwhile, the dogs had been surviving there for 175 days. The whole team had become very weak, and all their hopes were shattered. They lay on the snow, counting their last breaths. After a few days of traveling by truck, Jerry and his team finally reached the base. But they did not see a single dog. Then Jerry noticed the broken chains, indicating that the dogs must have run away. At that moment, he heard barking from afar. It was Max and his companions, who had survived in the snowy Antarctica for so many days. Jerry and the dogs quickly ran toward each other, and Jerry hugged them tightly. In the end, he also found the wounded Maya. Jerry was going to return home with all his dogs after 180 days. Finally, the bravery of the dogs and Jerry's love united them. They bravely faced all the difficulties and reached home safely. Do you also love your pet so much? If yes, then tell us their name in the comments.